Hey everybody, here's Chica, and I'm going to do a second reaction video to CreepyPasta Pudding. And I will put the links to these videos in the description box for those of you who want to click on the links to these videos. And without further ado, let's get right to it, shall we?
Good evening, my lovelies. I'm back here with another story for you. As a bit of an update of seeing the movie Slender, apparently people really don't like to see dolls just walking around and asking for movie tickets. It kind of freaks them out. So it's gonna be a little bit before I can actually share my views on this movie. So until then, I have requests and stories that I like. This one here is one of the ones that I like. This one's called The Little Match Girl. It was so terribly cold. Snow was falling, and it was almost dark. Evening came on, the last evening of the year, and in the cold and gloom, a poor little girl, bareheaded and barefoot, was walking through the streets. Of course, when she had left her house, she had slippers on, but what good have they been? They were very big slippers, way too big for her, and they had belonged to her mother. The little girl had lost them running across the road, where two carriages had rattled by terribly fast. One slipper she had not been able to find again, and a boy had run off with the other, saying he could use it very well as a cradle some day when he had children of his own. So there the little girl walked on her naked feet, which were quite red and blue from the cold. In an old apron she carried several packages of matches, and she held a box of them in her hand. No one had bought any from her all day long, and no one had given her a cent. Shivering with cold and hunger, she crept along, a picture of misery, this poor girl. The snowflakes fell in her long fair hair, which hung in pretty curls over her neck. In all of the windows lights were shining, and there was a wonderful smell of roast goose, for it was New Year's Eve. Yes, she thought of that. In a corner formed by two houses, one of them projected farther out into the street than the other, she sat down and drew her little feet under her. She was getting colder and colder, but she did not dare go home, for she had sold no matches, and nor had earned a single cent, and her father would surely beat her. Besides, it was cold at home, for they had nothing over them but a roof, through which the wind whistled even though the biggest crack had been stuffed with straw and rags. Her hands were almost dead from the cold. Oh, how much one little match might warm her! If she could only take one from the box and rub it against the wall and warm her hands. She drew one out. Scratch! How it sputtered and burned! It made a warm, bright flame, like a little candle. She held her hands over it, but it gave a strange light. It really seemed to the little girl as if she was sitting before a great iron stove with shining brass knobs and a brass cover. How wonderfully the fire burned! How comfortable it was! The youngster stretched out her feet to warm them too, and the little flame went out. The stove vanished, and she only had the remains of a burnt match in her hand. She struck another match against the wall. It burned brightly, and when the light fell upon the wall, it became transparent, like a thin veil, and that she could see through it into a room. On the table was a snow-white cloth that was spread, and on it stood a shining dinner service. The roast goose was steamed gloriously, stuffed with apples and prunes, and what's still the better, the goose jumped down from the dish and waddled along the floor with a knife and fork in its breast, right over to the little girl. And then the match went out, and she could only see a thick, cold wall. She lighted another match, and then she was sitting under the most beautiful Christmas tree. It was much larger and more beautiful than the ones that she'd seen last Christmas through the glass door in the rich merchant's home. Thousands of candles burned on the green branches, and the colored pictures like those in the print shops looked down at her. The little girl reached out her hands towards them, but then the match went out. But the Christmas lights mounted higher. She saw them for now as bright as the stars in the sky, and one of them fell down, forming a long line of fire. Now someone is dying, thought the little girl, for her old grandmother, who was the only person who had ever loved her, and who is now dead, had told her that when a star fell down, a soul went up to God. She rubbed another match against the wall. It became bright again, and in the glow, the old grandmother stood clear and shining, lovely and kind. "Grandmother!" cried the child. "Oh, take me with you. I know you will disappear when the match is burned out. You will vanish like the warm stove, the loving roast goose, and the big, beautiful Christmas tree." And then she quickly struck a whole bunch of matches, for she wished to keep her grandmother with her. And the matches burned with such a glow that it became brighter than daylight. Grandmother had never been so kind and beautiful. She took the little girl into her arms, and both of them flew into the brightness and the joy above the earth, very, very high, and up there was neither cold, nor hunger, nor fear. But in the corner, leaning against the wall, sat the little girl with the red cheeks and the smiling mouth, frozen to death on the last evening of the old year. The New Year's sun rose upon the little pathetic figure. The child there sat, stiff and cold, holding her matches, with only one bundle almost burned. She wanted to warm herself, the people said. No one imagined what beautiful things she had seen, and how happily she had gone with her old grandmother into the bright new year.
Okay, dokie, it's now time for the White Wolf.
Good evening, my lovely. Tonight I have a story for you called The White Wolf. The timber wolves around French Creek have gotten out of hand. There are so many wolves, and the farmers could not stop them from killing their cattle and their sheep, so the state put a bounty on them. They would pay a hunter $10 for every wolf cult he turned in. A butcher in town named Bill Williams thought that was pretty good money. He stopped working as a butcher and started killing wolves. He was good at it. Every year, he killed over 500 of them. That came to more than $40,000, which was quite a bit of money in those days. After 4 or 5 years, Bill had killed so many wolves, there were hardly any left in the area. So he retired. He vowed he'd never harm another wolf, because wolves had made him rich. Then one day, a farmer reported that a white wolf had killed some of his sheep. He had shot at it and hit it, but the bullets didn't have any effect. Soon, that wolf was seen all over the countryside, killing and running. Nobody could stop it. One night, he came into Bill's yard and he killed his pet cow. Bill forgot all about his decision.
What are the chances that this white wolf is the spirit of one of those wolves that the butcher killed?
Quite a how another wolf. He went into town the next morning and bought a young lamb as bait. He took it out to the house and tied it to a tree. And then he backed off about 50 yards and sat under another tree. With his head in his lap, he waited. When Bill didn't come back, his friends started to look for him. Finally, they found the lamb, and he still tied to the tree. He was hungry, but he was alive. And then they found Bill. He was sitting against the other tree, and he was dead. His throat had been torn open. But there was no sign of a struggle. His gun hadn't been fired, and there were no tracks in the soil around him. As for the white wolf, it was never seen again.
Okay, that's kind of weird. Yeah, that's a bit of a random plot twist, wasn't it? Well, I hope that you all enjoyed this reaction video. I will put the link to these 2 videos in the description box for those of you who want to watch the original videos without hearing me speak. And until next time, bye bye, and have a good day.